All right, everybody, we are live. I am super excited for today's show. It is going to be featuring a very special guest with one of our honored expert panelists of A Seat at Our Table. If you guys have not secured your tickets, I don't know what you're waiting for. Make sure you click the link in my bio, reach out to me, and I will hook you all the way up with your seat at the table. All right, but right now, without further ado, welcome to What's the 411? We are going to get it started with our special guest. Okay, so Miss Nicole, would you please introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are and all of the fabulous things that you do.
Okay, you're absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. So I always wonder how to introduce myself, but what I like to do is just let you know like who I am and like where I've come from. So, I was born into a complicated life. I survived a complicated childhood and I unlearned my complicated life. Okay. And life for me now is simple. Okay. I've embodied a new life through this healing journey of mine and a new way of being in the world. So those who know me, I say this a lot. I say I'm in the world, but I'm not of it. Okay. Like I just have a different way of being, I guess. And so today I'm an activist for the silenced and unspoken. I am a trauma consultant, a registered psychotherapist. I'm also an author for a chapter in a book called Gracefully Broken. And it's a collection of essays amongst my colleagues. The book's called Embodied Healing. I actually brought the book to show the book. It's Embodied Healing. It talks a little bit about intergenerational trauma, but also yoga and the understanding of somatic understanding in our bodies, especially as racialized bodies. In my personal life, who am I? I'm a mother. This is my truest purpose. It really is. It's my truest purpose. It's my truest passion. I am a mother to 4 children, 2 girls, 27, 24. And then I have 2 boys, 19. And he'd like to say 16 and a half, but he's 16 because July's not here yet. So I'm also a yoga instructor. I am an embodied movement enthusiast is what I say. Some say, oh, you're a fitness instructor. No, I'm an embodied movement enthusiast and an entrepreneur of all things great and dear to my heart, to be honest. Okay. I like to bring things to life. And lastly, and new is I'm a CEO and founder, okay, of a newly federally incorporated organization for mental health.
Wow. Okay. So you put it all in there for us, and that's a lot. You are doing a lot, and that's fabulous work. But bring us back to your childhood and talk to us a little bit about some of the things that maybe prompted you to start the journey that you're on right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the silence and unspoken really speaks to me because one of the things I do, which prompted me on this journey, and actually I was known before being Nicole Brown Faulknor as Wounds to Wings. Okay. So what I did with Wounds to Wings, 2018, I woke up and just resigned from my corporate career, all my pension, all my things. And all the chatter was, oh, Nicole had a nervous breakdown. She's losing her mind. But I didn't. What it led me to was working corporately that way for so long. I realized the impact and harm it had on people, like the clients who were designed kind of to work with. And so it kind of was going against like my way and also my story, because I also have I had a story that was unspoken and I had a childhood that was kind of silenced off too and normalized. And so with great risk, great loss, and I'll talk about that this weekend at Seat at the Table, a little bit more about my story, but I decided that I had to be the change. And I think also in this embodied the healing I was on in my own personal story. So I left to set up Wounds to Wings as an outreach service for trauma and built my psychotherapy practice in there. And so what has happened through that is I've embodied the care and the systemic change needed. And it's a way to now, through all this research, embodied research is being out on the ground and within different communities to bring the voices forward. Okay. And so I'm not here to change the system. I mean, the system was here before me and all of us. It's going to be here after us all. Yeah. But I am here to create these small ripples in the system. Okay. And create these new ways of being where folks are lost and or silenced within the mental health care system in the cracks. Okay. So I'm here for it. So in a nutshell, kind of that's from my story, how it started out. Okay.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so talk to us, because when you had left your full-time career and then decided to jump into this, and you mentioned that some people were like, oh, she's lost her mind, she's gone crazy or having a nervous breakdown. Like, what would you define mental health as? Like, how would you define that?
Well, mental health to me really is, I'll just like get all clinical-ish, okay? But mental health actually includes emotional, psychological, and social well-being, okay? What I say is mental health is our emotional health, okay? Because it affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act, okay? It also helps us determine how we handle our stress too, right? And relate to others. These are all impacted. And it also, and how we make choices. So mental health is important, I feel, for every stage of life. Some say, oh, no, it's just for youth and it's a youth thing. Everyone's worried about mental health. Nope, it's an everybody thing, okay? It affects the childhood, adolescence, and adulthood all the way through. So that's how I define mental health. And how I also amplify voices on Wounds to Wings to bring that forward, right? To promote self-healing through breaking stigmas and debunking mental health and common behaviors associated with mental health. It's like, you're normalizing it. So you start talking about things and people are like, oh, whoa, what? I would never say that, or I never thought about it like that. That's called self-healing, because we're normalizing these things that are not really being spoken about, that kind of covers us under our shame, or covers us under our guilt, like our sense of responsibility of holding up and trying to be strong, all the things. Okay. So, yeah, I'll say that because I could talk, on and on.
Okay. And then, so you also mentioned intergenerational trauma. Talk to us a little bit about how that ties into mental health.
Well, I don't, we need lots of time for this one. We need lots of time. So again, I'm going to bring most of this back to the weekend. I'm looking very forward to Saturday, to your event. Thank you for hosting the space. And I feel honored to be at the seat, at one of the seats. And, so, I think the best bet to do it for this space, and maybe just to kind of go into an educational realm. Okay. So two things, as soon as I talk about intergenerational trauma, I want you to hold these two things. Two things can be true at once. Your parents did their best and you experienced trauma as a result. Those two can be true at the same time. Okay. Here's another one. Trauma can be passed down through DNA. It's in our epigenetics, okay? There are stressors, okay? And usually with intergenerational trauma, this is not part of the two, but me talking, it can be perpetuated by a lack of resources and community support, okay? So like even being a Black person, and like I understand there are certain stigmas within my own Black culture and community that can perpetuate and exacerbate the generational trauma. It's just your mom won. You don't have to. And I'm like, well, you can hold both. Like there's love is never going to leave for the love and regard I had for my mom. And I can hold what I deserved and wish I had and grieve that too. And they can be two same things at the same time. Okay. And so I'll say that. Now, intergenerational trauma. So two things, internalized shame and internalized depression. I want us to hold that, okay? Because it shows up as that, okay? Oppression is helplessness. That's what it is. That's why oppression is trauma, because it's helplessness. It's helplessness. That's what I'll say for today, right? But you can see oppression in systems in that, because people stay helpless. There's not equitable enough spaces to platform to get their voices with everyone else's, right? Why I even designed Wounds to Wings. This is for the people, is to amplify their voices, promoting self-healing through breaking down stigmas and debunking all the things that I talked about earlier. And why everyone's like, well, that's not really inclusive. Yeah, it is very inclusive because it creates an equitable platform for those lost in the cracks of the system, those struggling with intergenerational trauma, the untold stories, all the things. If I focus on them, it actually privies them and gives them an equitable platform. I hear you. I hear you. When I aim here, it's inclusive by default because they will not be able to access me. So I move out into communities and do all the trauma work, somatic work, all the things. And those who are already accessible, guess what? It's inclusive because they can come. So it innately will make an inclusive space if we focus on these equitable spaces, right? So intergenerational trauma. Okay. Internalizing oppression. That's where I went with that, you see? Okay. And then internalized shame is another one. Now, most folks don't know what like internalized shame looks like in a behavior. Do you know what it looks like in a behavior?
No, educate us.
Yes. Okay. Good answer. So, okay. So that shame feels like there's something fundamentally wrong with you to the core. Okay. Like there's no self-compassion there for yourself. Like you feel like it's very perfectionistic. It's very strong suited. It's very caretakerish. Okay. It's very people pleasing. Okay. That's shame. That's what it looks like. Okay. So part of our intergenerational trauma and how we learn to protect the story in our bodies or the story that was carried for us to carry into our bodies, right, is shame. And so we keep using the words and we keep talking about it, but we don't understand it on a behavior and a embodied level, like what that feels and looks like. Okay. Now, I had to be very careful with this too, because good thing I had 4 kids, because the first 2, I missed it. So I carried the intergenerational wound down. So it was passed to me, and I unconsciously put it into my children to carry because I hadn't started my healing journey. So good thing I had 4 kids, because now the other 2, I got to like rectify it. And then in the present moment, continue to apologize, validating their feelings, validating their needs. 10 chores a day, even after, that's a lot. Like, oh, no patience, urgency. Oh, that was on me. Like I have to validate them to allow them to heal themselves in the present moment. But we do what we know. Do you know what I mean? But what it is an expectation, right? So it's usually subconscious, okay, or unconscious, but we carry the burden, our unhealed part of us, and we give it to our children. Why are you crying? There's nothing to cry for. What? No need. Come on, right? And so that's just carrying that. Now, where did that come from? Right? We have to think about that. But like sometimes, because I do this embodied research, I just sit for the love of it and like really try to understand it. It's like you have nothing to cry for, and where would that come from? Well, we have a really, really rich migration story that lives in our epigenetics, and that can be like plantation. That can be like there's so much that could have carried down from. Okay. And so I'm always curious about that when we're working with intergenerational trauma, to bring in those parts of us and why our unhealed parts of us are important. Okay. Because to heal. Okay. Because also I know, and I can just speak for like in the Caribbean culture where I'm from, and you're going to, but I'll let you speak on that too. It's like, healing work is not really supported like as much. It's like you become the anomaly. And you're like, but we should do this for not only for us, our children, but for our ancestors. Because where do you think the rage comes from? Where do you think the rage comes from, right? That's our ancestors, right? They're screaming. They are screaming. That's the ancestors, okay? That's the unheard voices from them, okay? We have a lot of work to do around shame and grief and stuff. And so I should pause, because this is what I mean about intergenerational trauma. There's so many layers and so many levels, but we should pause and just see if that's useful to hear back so far.
Definitely is extremely useful. We as Caribbean people with a Caribbean background, we definitely can tap into that, especially the phrase, what are you crying for? That one, I think we have all heard at some point in our lives, if we didn't say it ourselves, you know what I mean? So yes, I am excited, guys. to have and honored to have you at the table with all of us on Saturday. It's going to be definitely a great conversation where you're going to pour out more information for us. But just talk to us a little bit more about how, like, of course, telling stories is a way to begin our healing process. But how else can we start to heal?
Okay. Yeah, that's the other one. So how do we start to heal? This, first of all, I want to say we don't have to know why we have trauma to heal it. I want to just debunk that right away. Lots of people would take lots of time to understand why and do all this intellectual work. It's like, well, you can, but we don't need to know why you have trauma to heal it, okay? So we can begin to heal from these issues by cultivating more spaces for collective healing, okay? And embodied-based practices. I don't think there's enough of it, okay? Where we can go under the guilt and under the shame, creating safer spaces as a collective community, okay? When I say, grieving in community may be cathartic, folks sometimes go automatically to the word grieving, right? And what it is. Well, grieving is rest, it's play, it's joy, it's celebrating. It's very non-traditional in regards to how we therapeutically heal through how perhaps we've been taught through our mainstream like academia and that. But our spirit and ancestors are alive in our bodies, and we need more of these spaces in mental health care systems, I feel. More embodied-based practices where I'm going with that. I'll say that lots of resources, lots of resource sharing, and I'll talk more about that later too. And also, of course, at the event, because we've created like a self-referral resource and support page, so we can, racialized bodies and underserved bodies can access it through our website on their own, right? Like bringing out this type of resource and information. Also decolonizing my body is so important to me. Again, I'm a psychotherapist who is actively on my own healing journey, and I will be forever. I think it's very important. The more awareness I have inside of my body, the more holding space I have for others. I always, I can't see you if I cannot see all the shadowed parts of myself. Okay, so as I work with folks in the community, I'll continue my healing journey. But I always, while doing these healing practices, I'll say, am I decolonizing my body? And people are like, what do you mean? What are you saying? Well, I always want to know when I'm dominating it or when I'm relating to it. And so that I make these choices based on that, because I always want to be in a relation and relating to my body and also my thoughts, right? Again, we're a mirrored world. We project this out in spaces, but being in my healing helps me continue to also decolonize my thoughts, right? Because our society can be very hypervigilant and very fearful. So nobody can be creative and like kind of go out against the grave a little bit, right? But I come in all my colors. It's like, and so also giving my body permission and that self-compassion organically in my presence will give others the permission to do that. And that's the reason I continue to do my work and to begin to heal these types of issues.
Super powerful. And so you mentioned, like when you start on this healing journey, sometimes it's not easy when you're amongst people who are kind of stuck with that blanket of shame or guilt. So talk to us about how we kind of break through and just be ourselves.
That, because, authenticity, everyone's like, oh, just be authentic and all the things. But authenticity is quite hard. Okay, because we're kind of locked under how do I say it? Like we're locked under the ways we've learned to protect ourselves. So we have a plethora of survival strategies. Okay. But what I say about authenticity is this. First of all, authenticity is super powerful for many reasons. Authenticity counters the manipulation of trauma. Authenticity counters the manipulation of trauma. What is trauma? Helplessness. Okay. Trauma is how, and same with intergenerational trauma, it's like how helplessness got trapped in our nervous system. Okay. And so, because our body is our nervous system. Okay, so authenticity counters the manipulation of trauma. I always say that in my workshops and work that I'm doing, but it's hard because to access it because of plethora of ways we've learned to protect ourselves. So we can't really be curious about it. So therapy or any type of healing space, I always encourage it. Okay, we need more spaces to cultivate this. So that we can feel and heal in community together. Authenticity also is not bullying. Okay, people are like, oh yeah, I'm authentic. I told Nicole, like I'm like, well, I don't really need a bully, but or harsh criticism, but it's harsh truth, but that's criticism. Authenticity lands different. It lands different. It's soft. Okay, because it's trauma responsive. You're understanding the helplessness you feel in your body. Okay, you're understanding and speaking for your own triggers. Okay, I respect my own boundaries. I don't say, hey, Ms. Ellie, can you not do that when you, right? I'll say, I wonder if your tone can change a little bit, like when we talk about this, because I have a really sensitive body. I speak for my own boundaries. I don't give the power into you to and begin to tell you how to treat me. No. Okay. So authenticity, there's a whole gift around that. And yeah, just so much work around that. And again, I hold those trauma trainings weekends. You're welcome to come out. We get right in it and we cultivate and co-regulate together over the weekend in space, doing this type of embodied type of work. Okay. Yeah.
That's definitely it's definitely a lot of work, because being authentic, as you said, can show up differently when you're in a different space, right? So it kind of depends on what stage you're in, and some people can take your authentic behavior personally, depending on where they are as well, right?
Yeah. Very, very true, right? Yep. We have to strengthen our feeling bodies. Okay. Because most of us, and I know this, it took me 5 years to begin to talk in therapy, to be honest, like really talk from an authentic place, right? And which, before that 5 years, I thought I was, but I wasn't. But we learned to like uncover and understand why we protect ourselves the way we did or do. Okay. And once we understand what we're feeling, because I only thought we only had like 2 or 3 feelings. I didn't know we had like 200 or something. Like I had no idea, but there's so many feelings. Okay. Now, part of it is accepting the emotions you're feeling gives the power back to you. The more I worked with what I was feeling, the more power I had to reclaim. Like I could just get to say like, that's disappointing. Like, it's so powerful. I'm like, that's all I have to do. I don't have to like wait or like figure something else out, come around it in another way. All I have to do is just state my feelings. And the more and more I understood and learned how to feel, I had to learn how to feel. I had to learn it's a language, right? Like just like any other language you'll learn. And once you learn that, you begin to accept the emotions you're feeling, and it gives your power back to you. So I just drop feeling bombs all over the place, even to my son, like just even before now. Like it's just so liberating. Okay. So yeah, speaking our truth, it's a learned authenticity. It's a learned practice, just like learning a new language, right?
And I guess this is kind of like life work. Are you ever done with this type of work?
I say never. I say never. There's just so much though. Like life is so much. Like even if I think about before 2018 and how I thought life was, and I knew so much. And then just like how many years is it now? Like maybe 5, right? And like it's like open this much. Like I can only imagine 10 years. Like I'm hardly going to see anything. Okay. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. So talk to us about the need for speaking up. So some people are out there and they know that they want to speak up, but it is hard for them to actually get that going. So talk to us about like the need for really speaking up and telling our stories.
The need for it there is a need for it, but we don't have enough spaces that feel safer for our bodies to do that. Our bodies have more intelligence in it than our brain, eh? Like I would even go times, really, like even the smartest person, our body has more intelligence. And so our bodies, until it feels safe, won't be able to, because our bodies have memories. If feelings are memories, and our body is our nervous system. Do you see how complicated that is? Then how can we speak up and learn to speak up, and our bodies with its intelligence going, oh yeah, we're safe, we're going to be okay, we're not going to get retaliated on, we're not going to get rejected, oh, we're not going to get punished. Our bodies hold the fear of that. It has memories to it. Okay, so it's tricky because we need more spaces, right? Like we need more safer, cultivated space. It means that the person leading the space needs to be in their healing work, actively alive in it, because sometimes in these spaces it is not intentional, but this spaces is used for the leaders to get what they need. Not, again, it's not intentional, but it's like it has to be reversed. It has to be always questioning, like, well, who's it for? Right? So that we can access and privy the voices and that space, because our bodies know safety with no words. Because primitively, we're limbic to limbic system. Most folks won't know, like we met like a few months ago, like October. It's like, but we're very familiar. Do you see? Like you probably feel I already love you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like a thing, right? Because it's like we are limbic to limbic system. What I'm feeling in my body, you're going to feel. I have great self-compassion and love for me. I see you on the inside. I'm going to treat you like this. It allows you to give yourself permission and to come out of your vulnerability and ask for what you need. And we have this exchange. It's just automatically intimate and we're done. Like it's just a thing. Okay, so we need more spaces like that where people are actively in their work, less projections in the spaces where it's nothing about blame. It's nothing about whatever, unless it's cultivated. Like unless we're like doing a group therapy and it's contained and we have these rules around it and we can process what's happening, right? So we need spaces like that, long story short.
Definitely. And I do feel the same way. I mean, the first time we had our conversation, it was like an instant click. So it was right there automatically, right off the bat. So definitely, my gosh. But you were talking earlier a bit about yoga and embodied healing. So talk to us a bit about how yoga can help with this whole process.
Okay, so yoga is another one that is up there with the intergenerational trauma talking, right? Like, so I try to condense it a little bit. And even again, as you can tell, I'm super excited about the event, right? But even before I speak, I collectively hold space with the group to move our bodies. So you'll see it, and usually people are like, what, should we do this? Absolutely. And so building a relationship to the body, okay, is important, especially for racialized bodies. And especially for bodies that have our migration story trapped in our epigenetics, in our visceral body, okay? Now, what trauma does when I go out, and talk about trauma is it doesn't allow us to be present. And it also doesn't allow us to be in our bodies. We're not safe in our bodies. So we checked out of our bodies. So we don't really have a relationship with the body. And so with yoga, it's an offering for present moment experiences. It takes us and gives us a break out of our survival mode. We are not in our bodies and don't have a relationship with our body because we're in a survival mode. We're on the left side of the brain. We're tracking, we're looking at ourselves, making sure we're okay, right? It's survival. Okay. And so the use of yoga, and for me, I am a yoga instructor and teach at like a known gym and that, but I've moved away from actually teaching yoga to use yoga shapes, because everyone knows when I say trauma yoga, they go, oh yeah, it's yoga, I'm going to do, but I borrow the shapes for us to practice exploration in these types of shapes that I facilitate people's bodies into. And I do it because trauma lingers inside. Okay, it gets stuck inside, and we have to retrain our bodies to understand that the danger has passed. There's no talking that's going to let our bodies know the danger's passed, because we are a feeling body. It's very primitive, right? So yoga actually is very empowering. I can speak for my own body, or when I cultivate space and hear feedback from others, it's empowering for people. It allows them to be embodied, because trauma makes us dissociate. We're feeling something. You ever wonder why? I don't know if you had an urgent mom, but my mom was urgent. Everything was quick. You gotta run. You're like, go. Yeah. It's like, okay. And then, as I come into this work, and I'm like, right, urgency is a trauma response. Okay. Like, okay. Because it actually gives them control around not having to feel anything. So you're always like going and going and moving, right? So you don't have to feel anything. And the feeling is what we need to strengthen us, right? But they're like, oh, I'm going. Look how strong I am. I did everything. I'm like, but, feelings, your greatest strength. Okay. So so much with yoga because of those types of things. Okay. Like just to bring that in, but yoga makes us dissociate. Okay. It makes us be disempowered. Okay. We can't really explore choice in our bodies. We feel we even have to do things. And we're disembodied. Okay. When I teach trauma yoga, I'm practicing us to give lots of choice making, lots of taking action with your body, because this is how we learn how to empower ourselves. If I want to put my arm up, and you don't want to put your arm up, I give lots of facilitation. I might say you might extend your arm, you might bend your arm a little bit. You may not want to put your arm up at all. Even just in those types of facilitations through trauma yoga is the practice of empowerment back to our bodies, taking action with our own body. It belongs to us. And again, I can't even go back, especially, with folks with migration stories trapped in our bodies, go back to the very beginnings of it, because our bodies actually wasn't ours. And so when we're still in the present moment, remember, our bodies don't know past or present, It doesn't know past or present. So as soon as I feel like I can't give my body a choice, it doesn't know if it's on a plantation still or not. It doesn't know past or present. Okay. So trauma yoga is lots of opportunity. If I can't feel my body or how, or know what my body needs, right? Then how can I take care of myself?
Difficult, very difficult.
Right? So yoga is one of these things, like I can go on and on because I really understand it on an energetic level, how our body is our nervous system, right? And so regulating our bodies, holding our bodies, breathing, noticing our breath, it allows us to practice and take a break out of survival mode. We can live our whole lives in survival mode. People are like, nah, yes, we can, and so if even a minute a day, we take that pause out of survival mode, we're building this tolerance over on this side and practicing to be in our bodies. We begin to actually connect to our ancestral wisdom. We could hear things more. Like they live in our bodies anyways, right? Like I think, and that's the reason we like perhaps the story happened the way it did. It's like we are so far out of our bodies, but most of our wisdom is inside of there. Why do you think we're around each other and then we start like celebrating, rejoicing? Our yoga practice can come to a whole dance out. Like it's just like, because we feel each other, we begin celebrating, there's joy there, right? It's not traditional or westernized in any way. It's just what is, So yeah, like I was saying that because, like I said, I'm a storyteller too, but I'm saying that because traumatic memories are often fragmented and stored in our bodies, okay? It's implicit, it's unconscious. Okay, so it's unspeakable, it's painful, it's distressing, okay? And all those things we have to feel if we're in our bodies, but we need to feel them to heal the way that they want to come out, okay? And so yoga is where it's at for me.
I hear you. Okay. And then, so you mentioned earlier about, this transition that you were going through and the healing process and the difference between the first two children that you had and the last two that you had. So talk to us about the importance of saving space or holding space for our youth coming up in this whole transition as we go through our healing.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. So for youth, how do I start this? I think storytelling is very important for our youth, okay? Sharing stories. One of the things I didn't do with my older children is share a lot. I never invited them into my story. I don't know why. Well, probably because I wasn't connected to it. So I was I was in a reactive body. So that's a trauma body, right? So you're always in a reactive mode. You're not responding. Okay. And so what I do now is I share a lot of information. Like, my 24-year-old, she's she can be reactive. Okay. And so, sometimes, so what I'll say is I can speak for, I say, before growing up, when she was a teenager, I could not handle it. It's like, we all have our stories with our teenagers. And it's a behavior, it's not her, but the behavior was too similar to what I came from. So like the reactivity and like being angry all of a sudden. And so I also reacted on that. But what I noticed with who I was then and who I am now, I share stories. I'll say, Nishana, the other day when you were stressed at work and I asked you a question, you reacted on me and it said you're angry and I wasn't. But when you do that, I kind of know what that might have been earlier, because I would have reacted before, and you didn't deserve that, because I actually love you. I'm not going to change what I feel about you, but I would have reacted before. And so, because that was something that was, familiar to me, and I just protect myself right away. I don't care, you're my child, like whoever. It's like, and then she was like, oh, and I began to share. I do storytelling. I give a bit of my past, where it comes from, now that she's older and stuff. And so as I raise the boys, offering stories and opportunities to form like a mental connection, and they'll say, oh, I had anxiety. Oh, I was anxious when I wrote that, or I was feeling shame in the class when they did. Like, they make their own mental connections, okay, with the narrative being told to them through storytelling. So they're able to kind of see a reflection of themselves in the stories that are told. And so I do this with youth. We were at youth event last night. It's a family event, but it's always like storytelling or sharing something, and then they resonate. I'm not teaching saying, oh, you feel this. I'm like, one time for me, see? Okay. And so, yeah, it just forms perspective from their own lived experience. And I think that's important for youth from my perspective. So, yeah.
It's also huge as a parent to go back to your children and talk to them about things that you've experienced. And so that also lifts a blanket of a possible shame or possible guilt from them as well.
Mm-hmm. Really does, right? Yeah, the shame and secrecy lives in intergenerational trauma. It's like, we don't share the story. Well, where did the secrecy and shame come from? Yes, we share it. The reason we carry the shame and secrecy and the hiding is carrying the burdens from the past. It's like, we don't have to do that. We get to normalize it. Okay. Because as soon as you share something that feels shameful or secret, here we go again, limbic to limbic system. I'm going to drop into my own, and I'm going to say, I'm so glad you shared that. It just unlocked a part of me that was like, I don't have to say any more.
Very powerful. Very, very powerful. So talk to us about your impact, because for everybody who is listening today, I'm sure they're like, oh, I could tap into this, or I understand that, or, I can relate to this. What is like the impact that you want to leave on the people who are receiving your message?
Okay. The impact for me is, just offer the impact of self-awareness and self-observation and healing. Like that, I really feel with my wholeness and on a soul level that healing work is a systemic change. And so any interaction I have, that's the impact I hope to leave. Just offerings of self-awareness, self-observation, moments of like, oof, what's that? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Gosh, for real. But you are definitely a motivation to so many individuals. You are an inspiration as well to, I'm sure, your children, your family, and so many others, myself included. Talk to us about what keeps you going, like what keeps you inspired.
Well, people do. That's a thing. Like, people, like, aren't you tired? Like, oh, no, I'm not. People keep me motivated and inspired. Watching them be vulnerable and open and to share and to be who they are inspires me, like on a soul level. It inspires my soul. It lights me back up. It's very recharging, to be honest. It's how I know that I'm in my calling, and all of the gossip I left behind, like Nicole lost her mind. I never correct anyone. That's the other thing. So I never turned back around and be like, no, that's not. I kept going. Do you see? Because I know in time that's it will catch up, right? And so it really, I don't know, it validates why I'm walking this way, why I walked away to that, because it's I've only received light back. Okay. And what couldn't handle my light because it projected too much in their dark place, it fell off. I'm good. It just, if they just go off to the side, and I love them still, but it's not ready for this, and so people inspire me. People with vulnerability, people who are just showing up and they're just who they are. And my children, my children keep me motivated and inspired, right? especially watching them as they find themselves and create their own existence. I get chills, okay, as they create existence in their world. I don't like to get in their way too much, okay, as they're budding. It's like, you're watching a flower, it's like starting to bud, it's blossoming. I just try to stay on the outside, like the sunlight, the water, nourishing a little bit. But yeah, they do. They keep me inspired, and yeah, I feel full.
Definitely beautiful, beautiful. So talk to us about how we can stay in touch with you and give us maybe a little bit of what we can expect at the table on Saturday.
Hey, okay. So I want to start with at the table, because I have the in-person, also being in person is very it's very motivation for me, because it's been a while since we've been out. And when I saw that you're hosting it and that it was going to be in person, I just thought we need this as a collective. Yes, we do. We need it. We need it. So another reason why I'm super excited to be with other people and other people's bodies and doing this. At the table, I get to speak about ancestral wisdom. I'll do it through intergenerational trauma. I'm going to do it through sharing my story. And sometimes sharing your story, people get to find themselves in your story, so they can connect to themselves as well. And what I'm notorious for, which is debunking and destigmatizing things, just talking about what folks don't want to talk about, being uncomfortable with conversations, so that it can wake parts of people up. Okay, because once we're healed, we kind of transfer healing onto others. So I'll get to do that through talking, about ancestral trauma, which is wisdom, and our divine gifts, okay, that's kind of locked up in our bodies as well. So how to stay in touch with me. There's many ways, because I try to keep myself accessible out into the community. So you can follow us on social media. I say us because we're a team. TAO is a team. We have a team of 6, including me, board of directors. TEAOcanada.com is our website. Our handle on Instagram is TAO_Canada. The TEAO stands for Trauma and Embodiment Association of Ontario. It's exactly what we're doing out there. We are outreaching our services, and we are going to continue to do that until we pop up into our own facility as a trauma facility. We're not there yet because we're too busy implementing and ebbing our way into all the post-secondary education schools that we can, into all systems as mandatory trauma care, responsive care training, especially for people who use their bodies working with other clients and people in the community. So, over that, you'll look out for that. But you can you can follow our journey that way. Wounds to Wings is one follow. It's just daily postings and inspirations. Again, they're just like self-reflective, self-healing thoughts. I call them conscious thoughts, and it wakes up parts of us that are kind of lying down or hiding. So we're kind of normalized in our suffering. We can bear our pain, but we can't bear suffering. Pain we can work through, but the suffering is when we're alone in our pain. And that does something else. That can drop folks really down a deep place, despair, so forth. Okay. TEO Canada, we're always open for collaborations. We're out in communities, offering collective breath. We just pop up and do like somatic practice, trauma yoga, some fascia work through Human Garage. That's new for us. But they work with the fascia. They say our subconscious is stored in our fascia. So we kind of untwist our bodies to release the stress cycle, and how we learn to protect ourselves stores in our bodies. So we're just popping out in all communities and offering that type of work. And yeah, you can also, if you want a virtual platform, you want something to do on a Saturday morning, I'm known as Mama in that platform. So what we do is we dance on a bike to Afro-Caribbean music. We do yoga soul, which is a somatic practice where we use music to stretch our bodies. It's very gentle. We don't need a bike or anything like that. So you can find me wherever. I'm trying to make myself as accessible as possible.
Yes, we see you out here doing all of the things, and we're excited to hop on. So make sure that you guys check them out on Instagram, or if you want to hop onto the website as well, the links are, I'm sure, all in the bio. And you want to make sure that you guys tap in. And if you haven't secured your seats, again, make sure that you're securing them for Saturday. We only have a few tickets left, and then they're all sold out. All right. But before we let you go, I just want to see if you have like a special thought, a motivational quote or something that you want to leave with us that is going to keep us thinking about what you got going on.
Okay. Yeah. I just say to folks, like, just be you, like, be you, risk it, speak for your reactions, right? Healing is so important. I wish we knew that more, and I wish folks knew that more. Okay. Healing is so important. It's important for our future health and our health. Okay. Our physiological state. Okay. Why, as busy, I have a 50-50 rule. As busy as I am doing the business and entrepreneur stuff is as busy as I am playing, because my left and right brain knows no different. Okay. It knows no difference from past and present. And so even if I'm doing what I love and I'm working really hard and not finding my breath, I can't rest my breath anywhere. I can't play for a second. It knows no different than being punished or anything like that. Right. So, and also on the left side of my brain is where my harm was done to me. So if I'm always in that side of my brain, right, it doesn't get any reprieve. It's just reenacting. So I have to jump onto the right side of my brain. I have to play. I have to find joy. I got to find smiling faces like Ms. Ellie, and like do our meetings like that. Like it's like how I rest my breath, right? So, that's more for our physiological state. Okay. It's for for our children. How about that? For the youth and them coming along. We want to be alive in our bodies. No? Sometimes I look around like, no, we don't want to be alive in our bodies, right? So, we can live our whole life in a survival mode. Like I said earlier, we can live our whole life in a survival mode. And we're actually trying to learn to live. There's a difference. You can live in your bodies, you can be alive in your bodies, you can survive, right? And so be you, what I keep saying, because this stuff will begin to bring you more and more alive in your body. I could say so much, right? Like, get to know your boundaries, so you can speak for them. Right? Yeah, you'll notice how you will notice when you begin to do that, how you begin to speak for your boundaries. Okay, not react, speak for them. I can't let you do that. I can't let you go on with that conversation anymore. Let me come back to you with that. Speak for your boundaries. You will notice how it comes through as love. You know that? And is helpful to two people, to each other. We're a mirrored world. If we want to believe that or not, we're a mirrored world. And like I said earlier, I said, I'll see you on the inside. Someone said that to me one time. I was like, what? Because that was so powerful. I will see you on the inside, because you, even Ms. Elliott, you're in me. And when I can see myself, I can see you. So I say, I see you on the inside. Do the healing work so we can see each other on the inside, Okay. I'll go on and on. That's why I'm going to. Okay.
We definitely have to do the healing work. It's super, super important. My gosh, very powerful stuff. I cannot wait for Saturday. I'm just super excited, not only to meet you in person, but also to get a taste of, that real authentic connection, and for you to just tap into everything that you're saying here. We are excited about it. We cannot wait. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, do you have anybody you want to say what's up to?
Oh, I love that. I want to shout out to my team. Like I have, like, go on TO Canada.com, visit my team. There's this meet my team. They are the backbone of everything I do. I have such a creative way, artistic way of being out in the community doing the work. And they have, all 5 of them have learned to just follow me through. I want to shout out to them, because you see how I am, right? I'm just storytelling, I'm working, and I'm serious, and then I'm playing. They're like, whoa, shout out to them. They are the backbone. I could not and cannot do what I'm doing out there in communities without them. So I want to shout out to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate you for taking the time out to spend with us today. And I'm really looking forward to Saturday.
Thank you. Me too. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is Nicole Brown Faulknor. She is going to be at the table with us on Saturday. So make sure, if you guys have not secured your seats, secure them. Okay. Click the link in my bio, reach out to me if you have any questions, just peep the lineup. It is going to be phenomenal. We have so much in store for you on Saturday. It's going to be off the chain. I just cannot wait. All right. But thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. This is What's the 411, where everybody's story matters. And tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I will be right here back, same time,